Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Rafiq Bal, and today we'll be deliberating on two very important topics. The first being Israel's attack on Qatar, in which they targeted the Hamas leadership. Five members of Hamas have been killed in this attack. However, the top leadership of Hamas was secure, and they escaped this deadly airstrike by Israel. Of course, condemnations have poured in throughout the world and from all quarters of the world, specifically from the Middle East. Pakistan, Somalia and Algeria, they also called for an emergency meeting of the United Nations, and of course they want to highlight the Israeli aggression and this violation of international law and all the international norms. When we talk about the Israeli attack on Hamas leadership, five of the Hamas members were killed in these airstrikes. The senior Hamas leadership managed to escape safe, but this Israeli attack on Qatar, also an ally of the US, it is a testament to how Israel is not interested in dialogue and diplomacy and the resolution of conflicts itself. And it shows how Israel wants to opt for ethnic cleansing and genocide to carry out its ulterior malefied motives. So we'll be deliberating on this and in the first segment, and we'll be talking about the flood situation in the second segment with regards to the domestic situation we see. Water is now moving towards Sindh province, and we see the issue it has caused in Karachi today. Earlier yesterday, the PPP chairman, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, he talked about how the preparations have been made in advance. We'll be deliberating on all these different aspects, but right after a short break. Welcome back. Starting off from the second segment, where we will discuss the flood situation in Pakistan. We know the water is now moving towards Sindh province and has caused catastrophe in Karachi today. Yesterday, the PPP chairman Bilawal Bhutto Zardari addressed a press conference where he talked about all the rescue and relief efforts that have been made in advance, and he also shed light on the preparations that the Sindh government has made with regards to the water and flood situation. Of course, we'll be deliberating on the different aspects of that as well. One of the biggest aspect of that being the food insecurity that is going to be a challenge for Pakistan now after these devastating floods. We'll be deliberating on all the different aspects of both of these topics. In the studios, we have been joined by Major General Zahid Mahmood, who is a defense analyst. Thank you for joining us. And we've also been joined by Raja Faisal, a geopolitical analyst. Thank you, Raja, for joining us as well. Via video link, we'll be joined by Dr. Carl Colton-Taylor, who is an analyst. Thank you for your time and being part of the conversation. Gentlemen, starting off from the Israel's attack on Hamas leadership in Qatar. I'll start from Dr. Carl Colton-Taylor. So when we talk about Israeli aggression, it's something that has been talked about since quite a while now by the international community. Condemnations have poured from all over the world. There are many countries in Europe as well that are going to recognize Palestinian statehood, as they've directed towards. And Pakistan, it has always advocated for a two-state solution to the Palestinian question and also condemned the Israeli attack in Qatar. Pakistan also called for a United Nations emergency meeting on the Israeli aggression. What's your comments? Dr. Carl? We'll try establishing connection with Dr. Carl. Major General Zahid, when we talk about Israeli aggression, of course, it's something we've been talking about since quite some time now. It's something that the world community has been raising their voices on since quite some time. We see protests erupting in different parts of the world. Pakistan has played a very active role in, of course, promoting the two-state solution. It has always reiterated since the start that this was the only solution to the Palestinian question. And now we see member countries in Europe, they're also advocating for the same. But when we talk about this Israeli airstrike in Qatar, what's your take?
Thank you very much, Rafiq, for the invite. And I think it's very unfortunate, not only for this region, but for the entire international rule-based systems. Because today this world is facing a challenge from, two extreme mentalities, two extreme ideologies, thoughts. I'm talking and I'm referring towards the, Jewish Zionism and Hindu Zionism. These are the two states which are really challenging the rule-based societies. I mean, they're challenging all the conflict resolution mechanisms, institutions, and their hubristic approach is really undermining the popular system. And people are, I mean, whole world is really conscious about this approach, and they're worried about this approach. Whatever they have done in Qatar, I think this is not a war. This is an act of terrorism, and this is an act of terrorism which has come from a state which is already involved in a genocidal application against the poor Muslims, innocent children. I mean, they've crossed all the limits of a humanity. So they have to be, you know, they have to be, first of all, what to talk of mitigating the effects of this war, or what to talk of resolution of this. I think we need to, the whole world, there's a requirement to make them understand what a humanity is. What is that? I mean, their approach towards humanity is highly under question. They have done this with a state which was seriously involved, one of the major actors who were trying to bring in peace. They were trying to create this negotiation, and because of them, this ceasefire, the Hamas, they agreed for this ceasefire, and there was a exchange of the prisoners. So Qatar was playing a very important role, but it's a disappointing situation. Qatar being the strategic partner of United States, and I mean, the Qataris are saying that they were informed maybe 10 minutes after the attack, and I think this world is we are keeping our fingers crossed, because who to believe, who to trust, who will play the role? I mean, these are the big questions, and now the onus, I mean, the main responsibility to launch a protective maneuver for themselves initially and for the humanity. That Arab world will have to, you know, lead from the front, as you have said, and you have already described what Pakistani approach is. That Pakistani approach is an approach for the humanity, an approach for the peace, and especially the people of Palestine. Of course, Pakistan is supporter of a two-state solution, but Pakistan is supporter of this two-state solution because if the Palestinians are happy with this, you know, Pakistan's stance will always be with the people. Our support will be with the people of Palestine who have suffered the most. We have never read even in the history this kind of, I mean, genocidal approach which has been inflicted on them. This is unbecoming of a human approach. I would say like that. But I think Pakistan is playing all its roles, especially in the diplomatic domains, in the political domain, and in the humanity support programs. I mean, so I think we need to create more coalitions. Arab world will have to come forward. Otherwise, the next phase is the application of the Greater Israel. We can talk about it maybe a little later, but they're not going to stop over here. And this whatever they're doing, this is not a new phenomena. At least Pakistan is experiencing their bad application since 1965, and they declare their policies against the Muslim countries. I mean, that Islamophobia and these factors, they come into debate and come into discussion because of such an approach.
Very right points that you've mentioned, and I'd like input from Dr. Karl as well. When we talk about Israel's attack on Qatar, a key mediator in the ongoing peace process, do you think with this attack, all the negotiations and prospects for a ceasefire just go down the drain?
No, I don't think so. I think part of the reason why is that the United States wants a ceasefire and Qatar wants a ceasefire. So I think those two parties are not going to pull out of
Dr.
this
Karl,
process.
Qatar
I
didn't
think
want to be
there's.
attacked either.
What's that?
But Dr. Karl, Qatar didn't want to be attacked either. I'm just asking this question
No,
in light of the
obviously,
current
they
situation that we're seeing.
attacked. And I don't think the United States wanted Israel to do this attack either, despite the fact that the Trump administration has been very, very supportive of Netanyahu's moves for the most part during this conflict. Um, the for Trump, when he says he wants a peace in the Gaza Strip, he looks at this as something that he's staked his reputation on, and so to a great degree, I think he is serious when he says he wants there to be peace. Having said that, he also has to appeal to his base, which is extremely pro-Israel. So he's trying to achieve a peace, but at the same time not aggravate those who think that just about anything Israel does is okay. I think one of the major problems here is, if not the biggest problem, uh, just by itself, is Netanyahu. I mean, Netanyahu doesn't want a ceasefire. Netanyahu does not want an end to this conflict. If there is an end to this conflict, if there's a ceasefire, then he potentially sees his coalition disintegrate, which means he's no longer prime minister, which means he then may have to face the music, so to speak, when it comes to the legal challenges
Yeah.
that he faces. So I look at this attack on Hamas and Qatar is him simply trying to sabotage this peace process. It's not really about trying to take out, you know, anybody in Hamas who's significantly a threat to Israel. I don't see that. I see this as more of a move to try to save his own political skin.
Raja Faisal, what's your analysis of the current situation that we're seeing? The breakdown, as Dr. Karl mentioned, the US didn't even want Israel to attack.
Yeah, you know, Rafe, obviously I fully agree with Dr. Kaul when he says that there are, of course, political gimmicks as well which are being played by Netanyahu. He's perfectly right about it, because there are, of course, you know, charges against him related to corruption, and there are cases against him, and every time there is a news tightened on him, we see this kind of activity. Last time around we saw that there was an attack on Iran. This time, of course, it is you know, it is Qatar's time. And overall, a country like US is one of the most powerful country in the world. And if one of the most powerful country of the world is unable to stop, I won't say Israel, I would simply say Netanyahu, because Netanyahu, whatever he's doing, of course, he's doing it for his prolonged tenure, and he doesn't want to be caught red-handed, and that's why he's doing all of these things. So to me, if US, being one of the most powerful country in the world, is unable to stop a menace like Netanyahu, then of course nobody would be able to do that. And somehow, if a country like US doesn't want to do it, and doesn't want to, of course, inform its allies in the Middle Eastern countries about whatever the Netanyahu's designs are, I think very fastly US is losing its friends in Middle East. And they, by now, I mean, if I was in their place, if I was in the place of Qatar or you know, Saudi Arabia or UAE, I would have been seriously looking for an alternate to the American presence in the Middle Eastern countries. Reason being, this American presence, I mean, if we talk about you know, Al Udeid, which happens to be one of the largest air bases in Middle Eastern countries for US, if their presence is the largest in Qatar and still happens there, this shows that US somewhere down the line simply wants to keep the eyes shut on whatever Israel does. And if Israel is coming up with these kind of heinous crimes in the region, it actually leads the whole region to a serious imbalance of power in the region. And that serious imbalance of power would, of course, you know, give a cup of coffee to many of the leaders in Middle East to smell it, wake up, and look for an alternate to US, and that alternate has been proven very recently, and that is China. To me, I think China can play a very positive role in this context. Why I say this? Because everyone used to highlight the significance of you know, the military tech and defense and technology and all of that. I think their technology is, if not you know, better than them, then at least it is standing head to head with them. So to me, at least if inclusion of China can bring benefits for the Middle Eastern countries to create a balance of power, I'm not saying that they want to, you know, do something against Israel, but there should be a balance of power in Middle Eastern countries, and for taking that, of course, they have to head towards the Chinese.
Very important point that you've mentioned, Raja Faisal, and we'll come to the Chinese element as well. But before that, General Zayed, when we talk about these increased calls upon the UN to convene an emergency session after Israeli attack on Qatar, do you think it's going to prove effective, or it is just going to be the same as the UN has been giving out its statements, resolutions, and its ineffectiveness as once the League of Nations was in its last days?
I think it's it's going to be a very important emergency session. It has been postponed maybe because of the Qatari Prime Minister couldn't make it, and tomorrow probably it's going to be held. And it'll be a test for United States of America. If they say that you know, this attack was it was not with their consent, so probably if there is some resolution or something coming out of Security Council, so they will not veto that. Because look, Israel needs to understand that they have done this with the country which were trying hard to get their own, you know, persons released from Hamas. So there was a domestic pressure also on Netanyahu, but his domestic politics and his persona has really challenged the peace of this world. I mean, he is a hubristic approach. I don't know what are his objectives, his political objectives, and he's bringing bad name and shame to the people of Israel as well. And what he's doing, what service he's doing to the people of Israel, that he is creating deep-rooted hate against the people of Israel because of his wrongdoing, because of his politics. You can't change your neighbors. So with all the neighbors, this hate has gone into the blood of those generations, those who have lost their dear ones, you know. So they're not going to forget that very easily, and they will not see that this has come from a man who was, I mean, I don't have choice of good words here on this national media that I should be on this international media I should use for that person. I think he's insane, and he's the enemy of the humanity. Forget about he's the enemy of Muslims or Palestinians or Iranians or Qataris or whosoever. He is the enemy of humanity. So such measures, and to be very honest, I'll be keeping my fingers crossed whatever is coming from this. I'm not expecting something effectively coming out of the Security Council meeting. This will be until unless we all agree, as we are saying. And now it is the test of the sincerity of the United States, that whatever they are doing with their strategic partner, Qatar is the best partner in this part of the world. They have done it for them as far as Afghanistan was concerned. They are doing it for them. They have their forward base of CENTCOM over there. So they are I mean, they were very proud of. Look at the gift which he has given to, you know, and the amount of money they have invested in the United States of America. I mean, Air Force, they've given their plane to the president. That speaks of the personal attachment and the true friendship of two countries, and they're feeling embarrassed. And then these Arab leaders, now they will be under a lot of political pressure. I tell you, the people living in that in their countries, they were having a lot of respect for their leadership. You have all the capacity, and Qatar has the capacity, Qatar had the capability to respond, but they have not responded. Though they have said that we reserve the right, if they have not responded, it means that there is no will in the leadership, and that will have the implications for this leadership inside. You know, the domestic audience will put a lot of pressure, and not only on Qatar but on other regional Arab countries as well. So this was kind of an earthquake in Middle East, and it will have, you know, aftershock effects, I tell you.
Well, definitely aftershocks, which we are seeing as days unfold. Dr. Karl, as we talk about multilateralism, just a few days ago, the Chinese President Xi Jinping, he introduced the GGI, the Global Governance Initiative. And when we talk about multilateralism, United Nations once was the League of Nations. It became the UN because the League of Nations wasn't owing up to the agenda it was created for. Do you think it's high time that there's reforms taken in the multilateral system for which can ensure justice for all and progress and, of course, peace and security for the developing world as well?
Well, my wishes would definitely be that this is something that gets achieved. And there have been multiple attempts to do this really ever since the creation of the UN. The problem is the powerful countries in the world are not going to do anything that's going to allow the creation of institutions or rules that they view as detrimental to their own interests. So I don't really see efforts by any of these countries. There's always talk about, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I don't see these countries ever sharing their power really with other countries if they view that process is potentially limiting their ability to do what they want to do. So, for example, the UN Security Council, with the veto of the major countries, it doesn't give less powerful countries a say. This is still, unfortunately, an international system where might makes right. And as much as I'd like it not to be like that, I think it's actually getting more like that, not less like that. Um, the problem is powerful countries now act with disregard for less powerful countries. The United States, which used to argue that it was the beacon of democracy and human rights, doesn't seem very interested in those things anymore, and is maybe pushing the world into the direction of more of a might makes right type of system. So I hate to be so pessimistic, but I am quite pessimistic about any kind of major change in the global system towards more fairness or towards more equality, and not so much a system dominated by the very powerful countries.
And Dr. Kaul, there's another question for you. When we talk about Pakistan, it has constantly been reiterating how the two-state solution is the only solution for the Palestinian question. Now we hear a lot of European countries talking about recognizing Palestinian statehood in the General Assembly. Do you think that's going to have a major impact on the resolution of this conflict?
No. Short answer, no. To be honest, I don't. I think that the major obstacle to any kind of solution to the problems between the Israelis and the Palestinians is just an absolute intransigence on the part of Israeli leadership to think about anything like a two-state solution. If anything, we're seeing the Israelis move away from even a status quo where the Palestinians didn't have their own state, but they had some degree of autonomy, and there was some hope that they could maintain their own autonomy. For example, in the West Bank. Um, there's a strong movement now among the far right, which governs Israel now, to take away any kind of autonomy from the Palestinians. They want to take over the Gaza Strip, rule Gaza. They're even talking about removing the population of Palestinians in Gaza to somewhere else, maybe South Sudan or something like that. And in the West Bank, they're talking about expanding settlements and making sure that there's no contiguous uh, Palestinian territories that could ever become a state. So I am not optimistic about this process unless there's some kind of a sea change in Israel where more moderate political voices come to the forefront. Right now, those more moderate political voices really are kind of drowned out by the voices of the far right, that control power now, but also, if we think about polls in Israel, Israelis are concerned about their security, more so than they were in the past. And when they're more concerned about security, they're more willing to have these kind of hardcore leaders like Netanyahu uh, in power. So if we could somehow convince the Israeli population that they would actually be more secure with less extreme leadership and more conciliatory uh, postures towards the Palestinians, maybe we get somewhere. But that seems to be something that is not on the immediate horizon.
Right.
I would like to, Rafi, I would
Please.
like to, of
Yes,
course,
please, Professor.
put my some chips as well. And to me, what is the ultimate solution and how the balance of power can be maintained in the Middle East? That there is only one way, and that is if somebody can force Israel to demilitarize itself. If it can't be done, then the whole Middle East needs to be militarized. And that would be the only solution. And when it comes to nuclear umbrella, that should be extended to the Middle Eastern countries. And when that nuclear umbrella is extended to the Middle Eastern countries, that is the only way that the balance of power can be maintained in the Middle East, and that would be a mirror that can be shown to a country like Israel, a leader like Netanyahu, and that is the ultimate solution of it. And when it comes to, of course, Middle Eastern countries not maintaining themselves, this modern warfare, the supremacy you have to achieve is the aerial supremacy. And we have seen there is a precedent. And that precedent is being set by Pakistan in May 2025 war. And against whom? Against, almost 10 times bigger power than Pakistan. And that is the Indians. And we have, of course, set a precedent that as long as you can give them a blow and you can show them a mirror, where do they stand, they will never ever dare come towards you. And that's what has happened. We have, of course, not only maintained the balance of power, we have, of course, taken that balance of power in our favor right now. Reason being, we neutralized them for almost 48 hours. They couldn't even airborne any of their Rafales or any of their fighter jets. Reason being, they were simply gobsmacked. And this is the way forward. If we talk about the Middle Eastern countries, there is only one Middle Eastern country, Saudi Arabia, who is having more than 100 fighter jets in their air force. Rest of all, they have less. I mean, many of them, they don't have it. And if they have less than 100 fighter jets. How would they be able to fight against a country like Israel, who's having everything on the plate in front of them, even from the Western countries, even from Americans themselves? And every time when there is when there is a little war, of course, all of these U.S. naval ships and everyone, they simply dock around and for the support, and all of them, they are there to support them. This time, I mean, at this hour, the Middle Eastern countries, they have to seriously think about it. They have to maintain the aerial, if not supremacy, then at least equality. If Middle Eastern countries are not looking for it, then of course all of the Middle Eastern countries, I don't see them achieving a kind of balance of power in the Middle East at all. And if they believe that the Western countries who are sitting there portraying as if they are there for their alliance, for God's sake, they're not there for their alliance. They are just there just to ensure that Israeli interest is not going to be, of course, in danger. And that is what the utmost reality is of Middle East. And Pakistan can always extend help to the Middle Eastern brethren. They are our brothers. And how Pakistan can do? In Pakistan, of course, if we talk about Air Force, if we talk about our military, if we talk about our naval forces, Pakistan, since the day one, has achieved every bit that is required to secure itself in the modern world. And that is why we are still standing, and that is why we are still maintaining the deterrence we have achieved against a country like India in the region. And that India, that happens to be the largest country in terms of population at this hour. And if they want any assistance from Pakistan, of course Pakistan will extend it, rather than looking towards West for alliance and not finding anyone when there is actual time to be having some ally with them. They should look towards East. And that is why I earlier mentioned about China. And China can ensure that the modern warfare required technology, it will be available. There is no secrets when it comes to China, of course, providing each and everything for balance of power to their friends. And I think that's the way forward for the Middle Eastern countries as well. This is a wake-up call for the Middle Eastern countries. They have to look towards the East. Pakistan has always extended a helping hand towards our Middle Eastern countries. They need to look towards Pakistan. They need to look towards China.
Well, of course, it's a complex situation, and we hope to see that it comes to a resolution.
If you allow me, Rafi,
please.
I think I just want to add one thing what Raja Faisal was saying. Countries do have capacity, do have capability sometimes, and some countries might not have that capacity or capability, but most important thing is the will to apply that. That will has to be created. If that will is there, nobody will look towards you. The deterrence is not easy, and I mean, protecting your sovereignty, protecting your territorial integrity, you have to show to the world we have the capacity, we have the capability, and we have the will. That will has to be demonstrated.
A very important and very valid point that you've highlighted, Major General Zayed. Of course, Dr. Kaul, with that we'll have to conclude the first segment, the Israeli attack on Hamas leadership in Qatar. Of course, we hope we see positive results of the developments that we're seeing, and the General Assembly emergency meeting that has also been called. We hope to see the positive results out of that, but of course it remains a tense situation as it is right now. Dr. Kaul, thank you for being part of the conversation. General Zayed, I'll keep you for the second segment as well as we discuss the domestic situation in the country. Of course, you being a military man had also traveled throughout the country, and now that we see the situation in Pakistan, climate change and floods, it's something that happens every year, yet it's a challenge that we're failing to get our good grip on. What's your take on that?
Rafi, I think it's a critical situation in Pakistan, and in terms of the economic losses, and of course the human and the animals which we have already lost. And as you are saying that after every 1 or 2 years we are facing this, and since long, I mean in 2010 we have had a, I mean in the economic terms we had lost around more than $10 billion. Then in I mean, in 2022 we had a huge loss, and again this time I think amazing losses. There are two things. One is the natural calamity, and yes, of course you don't have control on them, but the losses because of the poor and bad governance, not looking into the future, not looking into the collective future of this nation, and not compromising on, you know, our small issues. I think that is criminal. That is not acceptable, and that should not be acceptable by the entire nation. So whatever is happening today, especially in Karachi, you know, it is because of the poor and bad management, because of nobody from the outside world is coming and asking us not to build the dams, not to protect your own people, not to, you know, improve on your governance. That is more painful. I think we have to decide, and we have to legally or constitutionally, whatever covers are required, we have to sit and we have to plan for the future of this nation. I think hats off to those people who are really working in the field. They are facing a lot of challenges. My sympathies are with the people who have lost their houses, or, you know, their lives and all that, and they are suffering. And mostly the poor people, the deprived in the society, they suffer. It is not easy for them to even build 2-room house. So it will take ages, you know. How much support you can provide? We have economic constraints, governments have economic constraints, nobody is coming.
Sorry to cut you here, but there's another question that comes to mind, and of course it's a very significant challenge that the country will face as well, the food insecurity that will come out of this flooding. Your comment on that?
Yes, of course, that is the biggest reason. We have already shortage of 30% in cotton, probably more than 60% in sugar cane, and wheat was already, it was, I mean, there was a less wheat was sold this year because of the price problems, and then we are going to suffer that. Even the you know, other crops, this I'm talking of the basic crops, all the crops, vegetables, fruits, and especially our orchards, they have been damaged, and it's a huge loss. Always, you know, even in the security domain, the hegemonic forces, if they want to undermine you, or the hegemonic countries, they want to undermine any other country, they make them food scarce, you know, by different techniques. And from this is a thing emanating from this natural calamity. I mean, it's a big challenge. I think if same thing happens, maybe 2-3 years after this, again we are going to see this. I think people will not. I mean, they should put their voice together, and they should put pressure on their, especially the provincial governments, because they have the major role. And I think federal government, provincial government, provincial government, they should sit together and plan for the future. Otherwise, I think will be known in the entire world that this is a nation which is bitten by the same snake all the time, you know. Then it will be a great embarrassment. I think sense must prevail.
Well, sense must prevail, and it's high time that the nation comes together and there's an expression of unity because climate change is a challenge faced by Pakistan, and of course it does contribute to great economic losses that the country faces every year. And as a developing nation, it does cause massive devastation, not just in the property loss, not just in the loss of human lives, not just in food insecurity, but also economic losses that the country has to bear, and the world community needs to take cognizance of that, as of course the world talks about equitable progress for all. With that, gentlemen, we'll conclude the debate for today. Thank you, Major General Zahid Mahmood, and thank you, Raja Faisal, for being part of this very important conversation. See you all same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.